And tell me about November 1998. Uh, it seems like you had a little situation where they tried to get a woman to lie and say you sexually abused them.
Oh, what happened was this. The show had been operating since September 16th or 18th, I think. And what happened, they had a big corporate get together at one of the big hotels in LA. So I was dancing with all these women, stars and soap operas and movies and TV. They were pretty, and I was a bachelor in my early 50s. I was having a good time. So I sat down with this one woman, and we'd kind of hit it off, and we were talking. She excused herself to the ladies' room, came back and said, "You know that tall guy over there in the gray suit?" I said, "Yeah." He was actually the CEO for the show. He said he offered me $2,000 in cash if I'd signed this note saying you tried to feel on me.
What was that about?
It was a setup so they could get control of you. So we went around and she interviewed the women, everyone we could find that I had danced with, and she got a written statement from them that this guy had also come and propositioned them. So about a month and a half later, I hired this beautiful sister. Well, I didn't hire her, but I knew her. She was somebody I'd mentored. She's a former Miss Washington, D.C., and at one time the youngest licensed lobbyist on Capitol Hill, so they were trying to kill the show. Mel Gibson and the producers moments. If the show was a flop, you could steal more money than you could make if it was a hit. So I put on my own PR program, and we put up a sting operation. She started confiding in the wife of the CEO about this fictitious woman. We set it up, and at each stage, she and I filed joint affidavits, sworn, and we had them put in a lockbox sealed with human resources. So we detailed the setup. So sure enough, as we predicted, they come up with this letter from this fictitious woman complaining that I tried to proposition her for sex in return for employment. So when we got over there in front of all of the executive types for Paramount, which had the show then, I said, "Go to hell, I quit, screw you. By the way, I'm gonna sue every one of you punks." And human resources, I had come over with the lockbox. They broke the seal. I had one key, they had the other one. And we opened it up. I had my witness, a beautiful former Miss Washington, D.C., first runner-up Miss America there. And we went through the affidavits of how we set them up. So in 6 weeks, none of them were there, and I was there for almost 14 more years. So see, there's some low-down scoundrels, but they try to run that. Now the difference between me and most of the other people they run it on is I wasn't teenage, early 20s, trying to break in. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I'm plus 50, and I've had a long career in the law. I've been a judge, so I've been a defense lawyer, prosecutor, ran the public defender's office in the area, so I know what time it is. So I set them up.
Can you tell me what you just made a statement saying that they can make more money on a flop show than a successful show?
Yeah.
Break down, how does that work?
See, in other words, when the money changes hands, briefly, they can steal it or divert it to other purposes. And if the show flops, everybody says, "Oh, what the hell, it didn't work," and they move on to something else. That's why I suspect that stuff like Lovecraft Country, which was a pretty good thing, got victimized by that kind of thing, and a few other movies or productions I've seen. In other words, people put stuff out about what's wrong with the cast and crew, or this person's difficult to work with, that person is hard to get along with, and it's just a lie to cover up the fact that they're killing it off and they're stealing it. You get a lot of people that go back a long way in Hollywood. In any other industry, they'd be at war, but they giggle about how they've stabbed each other in the back. And you're looking at this, listening to this, and saying, man, any other thing in America, somebody'd have some broken kneecaps behind this. So they drink wine and giggle about how they have backstabbed each other, and that's just part of it. You get somebody that's been fired 39 times, and on time 40, he gets fired, and he gets hired for time 41 2 weeks later, making more money.
What was the lowest point of your life? Everyone has that period.
Well, most of the time when my low points in life came about, they were high points for something else. And when I look back on them, if they hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. So it's nowadays you accept things with equanimity, you know, like a divorce or a death or something like that. It's like, okay, that's bad, but it's part of being human on a planet where your existence is threatened all the time by something that might take it. A low point could have been a high point could have been a low point. Right before I got elected the first time, 35 years ago, I was leaning on a tree. Broad daylight, July, not a cloud in the sky. I took one half step, boom, the tree got hit by lightning. Bam, burst into flames. I didn't get hit by splinters. People 15, 20, 30, 50 yards away got hit by the splinters. That could have been a very low point, but it wasn't. I had this James Earl Ray thing in my courtroom, and I'd got home late at night, tired, fell asleep at the kitchen table, woke up 3-something in the morning, 2 dark shadows out front, 3 in back. Some folk broke in trying to kill me. 30 shots plus exchanged. My friend, who was the director, a guy named Winfrey, and another detective who was a client, came over. Heavy blood trail front and back, half of somebody's earlobe on the window sill. Found out the dispatcher's recordation had been turned off 30 minutes before. 45 minutes after, no reports on anybody seeking treatment. All kinds of blood out in the yard.
So this was in Memphis?
Yeah, in Memphis. Yeah, and his van didn't want it to, but the bottom line is that could have been a disaster. But it was a high point. I felt excited. I was exhilarated, you know.
During the case now,
it's dangerous sometimes.
You don't get a certain level of protection?
I didn't want protection. What do I need some young men to protect me for? I'm supposed to be protecting them.
So
Plus,
you just carry the strap all the time?
Yeah, I always pack, except someplace like this, which is back ass, but you know. I have to fall back on martial arts. But the bottom line is that I found the whole experience very exhilarating and exciting.
Hold on, I just want to know this story, man. You're doing the case, right? People come to your house, they try to shoot you up. Did you go back to court the next day?
Yeah.
But so how was your perception? First of all, did you find out who did it?
They never found out. Probably I killed them. And they buried him someplace. They had on dark clothing, black balaclavas, you know, the ski mask thing, radios over here, you know, sidearms on the hip, fancy industrial glass cutters to get in, all kind of stuff.
So you think this was a police thing or a government thing?
Government. Then there's the other thing, not long before that, there had been an incident. Judge, you better take this call. We'll take a brief. Who's this? Detective, okay, yeah, what's up? There are 2 guys trying to break into your Lexus out in the parking lot. We got it covered. 15 minutes later, Judge, they were trying to plant 2 kilos of coke in your car. Okay, we got them on the ground. They claim it to be government. It's some kind of sting operation like hell. You got a judicial plate on your car and your name's on the parking space. Yeah, see, they do that. I knew somebody that used to run adult probation and parole for the feds before Biden got that canceled back in '81. And they tried to put 2 kilos of coke in her car one time to discredit her, but fortunately somebody caught that too. See, you have friends on both sides. I've had situations where you're driving down the street, some detectives, you know, have your cell phone, Judge, you got 2 cars following you. When you get down here to Union Avenue, make a left against the no left turn sign, pull into that Exxon station. We got it covered. All right. You're going down Cooper. Boom, make the illegal left, pull in there. They pull in on the other side. Two detective plain clothes cars swoop and block them in. What it was, they claim they're with some kind of alphabet agency. They're claiming immunity from doing it. Does the government get involved? Hell yes. I had another case. It was a murder trial in my courtroom. Get this one. These guys struck a diamond mine vein in a national park in Arkansas. They had all of their mining permits. It was 7 of them. They were going to mine them. They got visited in 1990 by Oppenheimer de Beers from South Africa. They got offered something they shouldn't have refused. They refused anyway because it was too low. They sent 4 hitmen over from South Africa. They killed 4 of these guys outright. They shot the 5th one. Made him a paraplegic. Were getting ready to shoot him in the head when some Memphis police busted in the door. They had been next door for a domestic violence call. 4 of them dropped the gun. We start into the trial. We get 3 weeks into it. We're talking about how diamonds are so plentiful that the only reason they cost so much is because De Beers has this monopoly, that tribalism isn't really tribalism. It's De Beers propping up their diamond monopoly. Nobody's contesting that, yeah, we shot all these people. We break for the weekend. Lock up jury. Monday, no trial because no defendants. U.S. Department of State's come in, granted them diplomatic immunity, and flown them back to South Africa.
How many of those situations do you have or have you witnessed where higher powers kill the case?
Several. They do it. Like James Earl Ray didn't shoot King. The FBI solicited the shooters, provided the murder weapon and the ammunition, which is very unique, recruited the shooters from probably Quantico Marine Sniper School, which is right next to the FBI Academy up there. They shot King from the firehouse, 2-man team, not the flop house or the bushes. The Memphis Police Department's Homicide Bureau was adamant that Ray was not the gunman. Some reason the prosecutors, which have a long history of being crooked in the area, insisted he was. Anyway, he never confessed, and interestingly enough, I got approached some years afterwards so they could get the information from somebody that set up an algorithm for a computer program. And what the program does is from stage 0 to 34, from bright red to dark green, bright green, it has a scale where it's not a lie detector test. It analyzes people's tones of voice, language, and an animation of their body language to arrive at what they're saying. The theory is that when we talk, only 15% of what we're saying has to do with the words. 35% consist of the tone and 50% the body language. So they were analyzing what bin Laden actually meant, what Putin was meaning, still means. And there was a group of military officers that were concerned about their oath to uphold the Constitution and what was happening in Guantanamo. So they became concerned. So what they did was they wanted to test this machine out by getting a tape of what they assumed was an outright liar, James Earl Ray. So they got 6 hours of tape from his last interview, and they were astonished where he came all the way across bright green on everything except 2 occasions, which was completely neutral. And the questions were a version of, if you didn't do it, do you have any idea who did? And he said, I'm not sure. And those were the only 2 out of 6 hours worth of questions on that tape that he did not come across being truthful. So they asked the person that invented the algorithm, a woman, to come talk to me. There's another thing too, interestingly, about king, and I'm sure they'll deny it, but 24 years ago, the Vatican wanted to make King a posthumous Catholic so they could make him a saint. So they got interested in what happened, so they were putting something into what went on, so they approached me about getting the information. It's an interesting thing.
Why do lawyers cost so much?
They shouldn't. We have entirely too many. Too many of them are not good lawyers. They're businessmen, but not professionals. And they have too few clients to keep the doors open charging a reasonable fee, so they charge very high fees. And I'll give you a little secret. The best criminal lawyers do not charge the highest fees because, A, they're doing it as a matter of principle because they're citizens too. And when they protect your rights, they're protecting their own. And two, they want your families to show gratitude by bringing in the accident cases and the personal injury stuff, so they'll make the big money that way.